Hotep. Hotep, this is Brother Sarah. Welcome to another episode of Journey in the Self. And I'm your host, Sarah. Today's topic is dissecting the divide between Black men and Black women. And the reason I chose this topic was because there's been an increasingly wide chasm created between Black men and Black women. And so I wanted to go and spend some time addressing the cause, explaining some of the circumstances behind it, giving some examples of some of the issues and how they occurred, and hopefully contribute to bringing forth a unity and healing of that situation, because that's definitely needed. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll note that when I posted the topic, I posted a picture of Brother Kevin Samuels, who just made his transition, and Sister Bell Hooks, who relatively recently made her transition. I posted them because they are symbols of the divide, and in some people's perspectives have contributed to it. Before we get started, many of you know that we've had a number of shows where we've discussed the coronavirus, and we've talked about the vaccination and some of the issues that people have had, the side effects that people have experienced. I have a coworker whose wife who is experiencing some very severe side effects to where she can't work. She's dealing with cognitive issues. She's dealing with cardio issues, heart issues, and the reason I brought that up here today, despite our topic, Kevin Samuels was only about 56 years old, as I understand it, and seemingly good health. He wasn't somebody who was obese or looked like he wasn't in good health. And so it seemed to be curious that a brother at that age would suddenly make his transition. And so naturally, there was some curiosity as to what the cause of his transition was. And as the universe works, seeking you shall find is a universal principle. And it just happened that I found my way to an article where it was revealed that the cause of his death was heart issues. He suddenly died of some severe heart complications. So how does a brother, 56-year-old, all of a sudden develop severe heart issues? And we know that that happens to be one of the side effects, known side effects of the COVID-19 vaccine. So just put that out there, for your awareness. I would encourage you, if you don't know already or haven't listened to some of the prior shows, to go ahead and visit my YouTube channel, Sa'amin Ma'at Ra, on YouTube, and you'll be able to listen to some of the information that we've shared about the various side effects of the vaccine. So the topic again is dissecting the divide between Black men and Black women. So I want to put some things in the context. The experience of Black people here in this country, as it has been organized, mind you, we know that from our conversations with our brother Dr. David Imhotep, that Black people have been here and are the indigenous people of this land. Nonetheless, we had to go through the experience of slavery, where our people were put in bondage, regardless of how we got here, and got put into that situation. The effects of that included the dividing our families, dividing Black men from Black women, and naturally, the intent of creating that type of divide was to prevent unity and unified organizing in order to be able to overcome that physical bondage. That has not stopped and continues on into this day. The desire by the dominant society to divide and conquer has never stopped. It's continued through the decades since slavery. There have been many means in order to bring that into manifestation in our communities. We've talked in previous shows where we know that there have been things like the social welfare system, which incentivize women to not have a man in the house, which in turn devalued the Black man in the Black family. Media has been has consistently given a negative depiction of the Black man. We know from our study of the intelligence community and of secret societies, as was brought to our attention by Brother Steve Coakley, how the Black man, particularly the young Black man, is considered to be their number one threat. And so there's been a heightened level of emphasis placed upon devaluing Black men, destabilizing Black families, uh, causing divisions between Black men and Black women. We've talked in the past about how that's been fostered by giving Black women a preferred place in society. We've talked about the fact that Black women have been, from an affirmative action standpoint, are considered, or EEO, are considered double minorities. Thus, Black women have had more access to education, favorable opportunities in terms of employment, which then also in turn creates a level of inadvertent devaluation from the Black woman's perspective. It's inadvertent, but it's intentional on the intent of, the dominant culture, white supremacy, if you will. It has created a dynamic, of course, where because of the fact that Black women have favorable educational and employment opportunities, that often, or more often than not, these days particularly, Black women make more than Black men, which then also has a psychological effect on how Black women see Black men. Again, from that standpoint, it's somewhat subconscious and inadvertent, but it's real nonetheless. But it's important to realize that that was the intended effect, because once that becomes part of the subconscious, it ends up affecting behavior and has affected behavior, which ends up filtering its way into relationship interactions. Now, that's not to say that there hasn't been any attacks on Black women. There have, of course, we know the level of misogyny that was infused into rap, in particular the gangster rap. But we also know that was an intentional move on the part of dominant society, with a number of different objectives, which did also include creating division between Black men and Black women. We also have the issue of the family dynamics that have been caused by the social and economic disparities, the effect of the welfare state, the power dynamics that have been created, the absence of the effect of all of this having an impact, which has created an absence of Black males in households, has in turn resulted in Black women raising children. Having Black women raising children who may have a negative opinion about Black men, whether consciously or subconsciously, affects how they raise their children, both the male and female children, and their attitudes and perspectives um, come up in their discussions with their children, which then in turn colors the attitudes of both the male and female children, and then creates a pattern and a cycle, which we see manifest in our community. I can give an example, a personal example, which ended up shaping the attitude of my nephew. Because my nephew's father wasn't a particularly responsible individual. He was raised by my sister and my mother. Needless to say, because of my sister's experience, she didn't have a favorable view of black men based upon her experience with his father. My mother had a negative view about men based upon her perception of her experience with my father. And I said perception of it, because perception is not always reality for anyone. And so both of their attitudes towards men affected my nephew, who looking upon himself, seeing that both his grandmother and mother had a negative view of black men, realizing he was a black man, he began to hate who he was. He considered black men to be dogs. It affected his relationship with me, his uncle. He assumed that I was like that, despite the fact that he knew from direct experience with me that I had never engaged in that behavior, but I was a black man. And that's all he heard. So now, his early childhood, he had spent a lot of time with me. And he was attracted to women. But now he's gay, which I do attribute to his upbringing. I think obviously there were some other factors in it, but this was a contributing factor. Okay, and then we've talked about black feminism. And I've pointed out in the past how black feminism has been what I refer to as a Trojan horse to further destabilize the black community by driving a wedge between black men and black women, creating basically a false dichotomy in that there was no need for black feminism in the black community because black women were not being oppressed by black men. That was a white woman's problem with white men. It had no place in our community. And feminism, as we know, and as we talked about before, was an operation through the intelligence community. We've learned that one of the early proponents of feminism, Gloria Steinem, was and did have connections with the intelligence community, and she essentially renounced that when she achieved her objective. But I would, suggest that part of the objective was to introduce that into the community, into the Black community, to destabilize that community. And so the Black feminists have been given a high profile in order to be able to promote this illusion, false narrative of Black men suppressing Black women, which has never happened. Not on a collective scale, anyway. Now, part of the reason why I felt compelled to have this show, and again, why I placed those two individuals in the promotional post for the show, was noting that when the brother Kevin Samuels made this transition, I noted a high level of vitriol being directed to him by Black women in particular, but also from some Black men who have just basically fallen prey to the narrative that had been was being spun about him. Now, my observations from listening to some of the shows, I wasn't an avid listener, but my brother Hassan had alerted me to him, so I checked him out. And what I observed from him was that his perspective was to alert Black men particularly those who he considered to be what he called high value Black men, that basically they have the option to choose as opposed to just being chosen. And I would suggest that the vitriolic response was a reaction to an adverse reaction to the audacity of him to suggest that Black men, particularly as he called it, high value Black men, will have the audacity to think that they have the right to choose anything. So I'll go into that a little bit deeper, but it's been my perception that much of the reaction, and this is not an uncommon thing, but often people react just based upon the hearsay and the reactions of others. And many people who end up having a reaction and an opinion have not done any type of research to form that opinion upon. So I'm saying that to say that there are a lot of people who have developed strong opinions without having listened or watched one of his shows. So I thought it was pretty curious about, how vitriolic the reaction was. And the reason that I posted both Kevin Samuels and Bill Hooks was that Bill Hooks was known for demeaning and casting black men in a negative light. But when she made her transition, there was not the same, anywhere near, if any, vitriol expressed by black men towards her. But we'll get back to that. So let's go ahead and listen to a clip from Brother Kevin Samuels, and this clip is called "Stella Lost Her Groove and Now Wants a High Value Man."
What do you want to know?
Well, who are you?
Well, I am on the West Coast, so I've been watching for a little while. I noticed everybody is kind of Midwest and in Atlanta, so I am in SoCal.
They're all over. The applications are countrywide.
Yeah, I'm in SoCal. I'm in Cali.
How old are you?
I am 27.
All right. So give me the trade download.
Well, I am a realtor here in SoCal. I am single and I have no kids.
Okay.
And I guess you could say I'm an alpha female. And I don't know, based on kind of what everybody else has been talking about, I'm 5'8".
Mm-hmm.
I'm 155 pounds. My dress size is 8, working on getting back to a 6. I work out 3 times a week.
Would you like to be married? Would you like to be married?
Yes.
How long was your longest relationship?
My last real relationship is 4 years.
No, your longest.
4 years.
Okay. How long ago was that?
3 years ago.
So you're 27? And your last relationship was 3 years ago and it was 4 years, so you were that person from 20 years old?
Actually, I'm older than that. I was playing with you. I just gave you the 27 number because everybody always says they think I'm 27.
Okay.
Don't give me that look.
I'm doing business here, so can we get to the truth?
I'm like, don't give me that look. No, I'm 36.
All right. Let's just speak to the truth. Your last relationship was 3 years ago?
3 to 4 years ago, yes.
And it lasted 4 years?
Yes.
Okay. Who ended it?
I did.
Any particular reason?
Lots of reasons. He was younger than me.
How much younger?
4 years younger. I started dating him when I was 30. So he was 4 years younger than me when I was 30.
Okay. So you out-earned him?
I'm sorry?
So you out-earned him?
Yes.
All right. So if you were married, do you want to have children?
Yes.
How many kids would you like to have?
At least 2.
At least 2. And after you're pregnant, would you like to have to work to pay significant bills?
Yes, I'm going to work.
Okay. If I asked your ex-boyfriend how he experienced you, what his word would be, Trey, is what?
Controlling.
Right.
demanding. I get the word demanding a lot.
And you want, what kind of marriage do you want?
I want a partnership.
Partnership meaning 50-50?
No, I mean, as far as, I want to laugh a lot. I just want to be happy. I want to be happy. I want to laugh a lot. I don't take myself seriously. I don't take life seriously.
What kind of marriage do you want though?
I want to be able to be open. Like, I don't want lies. I don't want secrets. I want us to be able to talk to each other about anything.
Are you a Christian? Yes.
I'm not religious.
Okay. So, marriages come down in like two basic forms, either a traditional marriage where there are gender roles or some sort of partnership.
Okay.
What do you want?
A partnership.
And do you mind if your spouse earns less than you?
No, I don't mind.
Okay. You own your home?
No.
How much does a man, this is a real question, how much does a man need to make annually before you consider him seriously?
How much does he need to make where I consider him seriously?
Yeah, before you consider him seriously, yes.
At the bare minimum, being in Cali, bare minimum would be 100,000, and that's bare minimum.
And what part of California are you in?
I'm in San Diego.
You care what race he is?
No.
What percentage of men earn over $100,000 a year?
You said what percentage?
What percentage of men earn more than six figures, over $100,000 a year?
Any race?
Huh?
Any race?
Yeah, any race. What percentage?
About
of men,
10 to 15?
10%. 10%. So you automatically eliminated 9 out of 10 men at age 36.
But I also say that I'm okay that he makes less.
I said, how much would he need to make minimum? You said 6 figures.
Yeah, and you also said, are you okay if he makes less? And I said, I'm okay with that too.
He makes less than you.
Oh.
Okay. I said.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood that.
How much money would he need to make annually before you would seriously consider him for marriage?
Okay, I would say 70 and up.
I'll be honest.
Because I mean, I do well too. So
that doesn't matter.
I know it doesn't.
I gotta be honest. We started off wrong with you lying to me. That's just not okay.
I was messing with you. I'm a jokester.
Okay, but we don't know each other, and that's all right.
That is true.
I'm be honest. It's off-putting. So, but then you say you're an alpha female and a control freak, and I don't. The kind of men that you are probably, except I don't really deal in like beta males.
I do attract a lot of beta males, which is crazy.
But I don't deal with those. I deal with
I
those.
would prefer an alpha. I would prefer an alpha male, but I don't attract them. I feel like I'm kind of demanding and controlling by default because I do attract betas. But I feel like if I ran into the right alpha, I would fall in that submissive role because I can be that. But I can't let the blind lead the blind. Like you have to be that leader. Men tend not to be a leader.
Please? Can you let me speak? You attract betas because you're dominating and controlling. You can attract alphas. They will not keep you. They won't accept you. They don't want you. They don't need your money. And alpha males, high value men, productive, competitive, successful men make enough money to where they don't have to deal with you. So this thing about I could be feminine, you either are or you are not. It's not a switch you turn on and off. And this is not a value judgment, but I don't really deal with beta males and 50-50 stuff. That's just not the platform I'm in. Because that's not a natural role for women. The alpha energy, the controlling energy. I mean, yeah, women need to be able to take care of themselves in a modern scenario, but you don't have to be a control freak. And if you were involved, how long? 4 years?
Mm-hmm.
4 years for the guy that was 4 years younger than you
Yes.
and earned less?
Yes.
Yeah, wrong platform. You. That's some Stella got her groove back kind of shit going on. So
I've been around alpha males, and when somebody is strong and they take the lead, it's natural for me to take that back seat when that person is capable of doing that.
See, what you seem to keep missing is like an alpha male has to prove something to you.
No, not prove. That's just who they are.
Listen, no, they're not. See, alpha males attract feminine women. And what you're saying is if I would consider being feminine if an alpha male steps up and leads and does something to put me in my feminine, he's gone off about his business with his woman. Alpha males aren't in the business of proving to you. You must prove to us. I'm not going to sit there and negotiate with you. We'll just leave you with the 4-year younger boy. That's what a lot of you aggressive women don't seem to get. Nobody's got to prove anything to you. Man, there are more females on the planet than men. And at 36 years old, talking about you want a man making 6 figures, which is really what you want. I don't believe for 1 minute you'd accept a man making $70,000 in Southern California. That's $35,000 in Atlanta. I don't believe that for 1 bit.
I don't need it. I take care of myself. I mean, it would be nice, but I don't need it,
Again.
But I mean, I hear you talk a lot about that, but one thing I do want to say is the one thing I feel kind of that you're missing is that you're not a woman and you're not out here dating these men. It's like there's young men, there's men in the middle, and there's older men, and you're not out here dating them. Like, I'm actually out here going on dates with all types. And the older ones don't automatically make them mature, and the young ones don't automatically make them immature either.
Hold on. I just let you say all that because how arrogant of you.
That's arrogant?
Because you don't know me and you don't know my background. I'm 51 years old. I've been over 3 church singles ministries. And I talk to, you don't know my background. See, the thing is, many women think just like yourself. Think you got it all figured out and people need to get up to your level. You're 15 years younger than me. You think you're going to put me up on game?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying you
I'm
don't
not
date
missing
men.
of course I don't date men.
That's all I said.
And the thing is that dating men is not the point. Women control access to sex. Men control access to relationships. And the problem is women cannot get relationships today because you suck at them. Modern women suck at keeping relationships. And they cannot keep men who are ranked higher value. Period. Point blank. End of sentence.
But would you agree that this generation of this dating pool sucks as a whole on both sides?
That was an excerpt of Kevin Samuels on his YouTube channel. I guess giving some counsel to a sister. Based upon the comments that I had read about him in the wake of his death, it seemed like he has been particularly demonized. I didn't hear the misogynistic type of description that I had read from many people who commented about him, um, evident in that particular conversation. In fact, um, what he said was true in terms of the dynamics of a in particular, a black man who many black women express that they want, and typically uh, it is that criteria of making six figures, having, being 6 feet tall, um, having a home and, and all that. The dynamics of that are, as he alluded to, there aren't a lot of people, there aren't a lot of black men who fit that criteria. But there are a lot of black women who want men who fit that criteria. So when you look at it from just a mathematical perspective, if you will, or, I majored in economics, right? And so that's a supply and demand equation, right? And so since the type of men that black women are looking for are in short supply, that's why he termed them as high value men, because of the fact that they're in short supply. Consequently, he's right from the perspective that someone in that position doesn't have to accept anything. They're because they have more choices than the black women do. That's not an attitude or a value judgment in and of itself. It's just that's what the circumstances are. So, and and I can relate to that. I've counseled black men and have made the same suggestion, particularly the black men that I know who do make a good income, just as I do, and I can validate what he says, that once I got into when actually after I graduated and got my degree, I already knew at that point that put me in some rarefied air, particularly with respect to black men. So I knew that I didn't have to accept just anyone who came, that I had the right to choose who I wanted, as well as, as a woman. And so, my interpretation of the vitriol that has been espoused against Kevin Samuels upon this transition is a is backlash against the fact that he has been alerting black men, particularly those who we would classify as high value black men, alerting black men that they are in a position to be able to choose. And that is not that's a threatening proposition because many black men have not ever thought of it that way. And there are reasons for that. We've been socialized to, because many of us have been brought up by women. We've been socialized to just only value what a woman wants and needs are. And we have not valued ourselves. And so much of what he did, and then he's pointing out, he doesn't deal with beta males, he deals with alpha males. And so he's basically in creating alpha males, in that helping them shift their paradigm of understanding that, they should value themselves. Now, and so that ends up creating a bit of a paradigm shift in the power dynamic, if you will, with respect to how black men and black women deal with each other. And the case, as it has been, truly, is that black women have been accustomed to being in a power position. And are not in favor of relinquishing the power position. And so that's the reaction. Fear of losing, the power position. And, and that should not even be an issue. There shouldn't be power struggle in a relationship. But there is. That's what we deal with. That's what, unfortunately, is a very common thing. We have another clip that we're going to listen to, and this one's called "Oh My God, This Is Why Many Men Fear Marriage." And, so we'll listen to that clip, and we'll continue on with our discussion.
Parents are married. They have been for the last 20 years. My grandparents on my dad's side are married. My grandparents on my mom's side, they're not. Okay. But I feel like what made me angry that I'm working through is my example of men. Because when I hear my mom talk about my grandfather, who I didn't get to experience, it's not what I see in my dad. So I was angry with him for a little while. And then I got over that. Well, I'm working through that, should I say, not got over it. But when I listen to your show, and even tonight, I hear what you're saying in regards to, women should focus on like their fitness and being feminine and cooperative and all of those things. But it still seems like we're still at a disposition. Like, I still have to work against that narrative.
Okay. Ma'am, you threw a lot at me at one time. You brought me your grandparents, your mother and father.
Everybody. I wanted to give you background.
How old are you?
26.
All right. Did you have braids?
Say that one more time.
Okay. 26. I'm trying to remember. Okay. You got to work at, what is frustrating you that you have to work against what?
I feel like I have to work against the narrative that is set for Black women, that we are just angry and loud and upset and pretty much everything that you kind of talk about in your show.
All right. So the narrative, is it a narrative or does it play itself? Why? Okay. Well, there's part of narrative, but then you have to ask yourself your lived reality. I took that little straw poll. Are Black women happy? Are the majority of Black women happy or angry today? What's your
opinion? Would say the majority are unhappy.
Why? Why would you say
lack of better words, the circumstances that we put ourselves in?
Right. Okay. But so it's not a narrative if it's the majority is true, man. I understand that.
Okay. I understand that, but my confusion is, or not even confusion, where the disconnect for me is someone like myself, where I am working to improve different areas that I see are weaknesses that are my own and that I've learned through the behavior of the women in my life and watching their marriages.
Okay.
But that's what I mean by
where's
I still feel like.
So where's your boyfriend or husband?
I actually just broke up with him, my boyfriend.
How long were you guys together?
We were together for about 5 months, 5.5.
Okay. And who broke it off?
I did.
Why?
I wasn't happy.
So,
but it was with myself. It wasn't
let
him.
me just go ahead. Let me go ahead and just level set. You said you're 26.
Yes.
Let me just go ahead and level set you, man. I have to work 3 times as hard to get half the credit. And guess what? That's just my lot in life. There's always going to be prejudice and discrimination and unfair treatment to any human being.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference is you either going to work to overcome it or you're going to let it overcome you. That's it.
And it won't be the latter.
Well, but the thing is, if you say it's the thing is, you shouldn't be angry about it's not fair nor so angry. Well, what are you going to do about it though? Because here's another thing. Black women are under whose burden? Whose burden are you under? Because it can't be Black men.
No, it feels like what I see. And what I see is like my parents' relationship, so my mom or my grandparents.
No. Okay, your mom's relationship and your grandparents' relationship are their relationship. You're a grown woman. It's time for your own experiences.
I agree. I do.
So when you tell me that you were mad at your father because he's not your grandfather, the first thing I'm saying is the nerve of you. The first thing I'm saying is the nerve of you. Should your father have been unhappy with you because you ain't your sister? But see, you have no problem. Black women in general have never had a problem judging Black men, even the ones that you should not judge. He's your father.
I don't feel like I'm taking the approach of being like judgmental, like you're wrong. I'm not saying that, but I am observing what I grew up around, my environment. And I'm not saying that my dad did.
Were your mother and father?
I'm not taking any.
Okay, but hold on. Were your mother and father married?
Yeah, they're married. They're still married to this day.
Right. And did you graduate high school?
I'm sorry?
Did you graduate from high school?
Yes.
Did you go to college?
I did.
Did you graduate from college?
I did.
So your father raised a college graduate?
He did.
What the French toast are you talking about? That's better than most of the country. Sounds like and he's still married to your mother. Sounds like he did a hell of a job to me.
That's why I also said I'm not taking anything from him.
But you said you were mad at him. You
said
no. You said you were mad. Earlier you said that there was a time where you were upset and mad or angry, and the nerve of you to look a gift horse in the mouth. You got what 8 out of 10 black people don't have: a father in the household. But as usual, black men still ain't good enough. So you make an issue where ain't no goddamn issue. Judging your father because he wasn't your grandfather when you got more than what most kids in the neighborhood had: a dad. A dad that was apparently good enough to stay married to your mama, raise a high school and a college graduate. Wow. And black men hear this shit. Black men hear this. And they're like, well, what the fuck else are we supposed to do? Being married to a black woman and raising those and providing a lifestyle to where you graduated from high school and college and didn't end up on drugs or on the street in the penitentiary, whole house, babies all over the world. What the fuck else is the black man supposed to do? A white man could just go to work in the plant and that's good enough. A black man got to go build the goddamn plant and his kids still ain't happy. I'm not laughing. I am not fucking laughing.
I am, because I'm not angry in that way.
But I am. And black men are, because I listened to what you said. You were angry with your father for what reason? Because he wasn't another man? You don't know your grandfather. You weren't raised there. So all you had was stories that your mama told you. So you take the stories that your mama told you versus what your daddy was doing and got the nerve to get mad at your dad. Well, how did he feel because he couldn't be the man you thought your grandfather was? Did you ever ask him how he felt about that?
We did, yeah. We have had quite a few conversations.
And how did he feel that his dad? Of course.
Mm-hmm. But it wasn't just because of the comparison to my grandfather, and the comparisons came from what I felt like my mom did receive that I was fighting from my dad, which was his attention. I feel like he was able to be more present with my brothers at the time than he was with me growing up, which was a part of our conversation that you're asking about. And from his standpoint, he gave me his experience.
And how did your mother balance out these things?
My mom gave me a lot of the things that I feel like I'm working through now. Like I'm not trying to put it all on my dad. That's why I said like the women, because I noticed how she also treated and behaved with my dad. And
what you did not mention is that you were upset and angry with your mother.
We just didn't get to that part.
You didn't lead with it. I had to pull it from you. This is the second time I've...
No, okay, I wasn't trying to withhold it.
Okay,
it was just a part of where my mind was.
All right, and here's another thing. All right, granted, but here's the thing. First world problems. You sound really entitled, man. You had a mother and father who were still married. Did they provide for? Apparently, they provided for all your needs, and you worried about your wants. I didn't get what my brothers got. Oh my God! The selfish.
But I don't think that that's wrong for a little girl to want that love from her dad.
Yes, it is. No, it's not wrong to want. It's not wrong to want love, but it's all. But this is why I say first world problems. This Disneyfication. To where the man did the best he freaking could, and it still wasn't good enough because the years his daughter should have been praising and loving her father, you were angry with him because he didn't give you what you felt you deserved or should have got or what your mama got. Oh my God. When you have children,
I'm sorry. I didn't hear the question you asked.
I hope when you have children, you don't have to experience that level of hurt as a parent with an ungrateful child.
There was a lot to unpack from that conversation. Now, the despite the fact that he expressed anger, which I thought was understandable, I got the impression that he was respectful. I didn't get the impression he was misogynistic. But I think the point is that, you know, what he raised were legitimate issues. As I pointed out in my earlier discussion, it's common that both male and female Black children are raised in a household headed by a woman. And it's not uncommon that the woman raising the children have are maybe bitter or have some animosity, anger, you know, and that's on the light side of things towards the child's father. And it does come up in how the Black male children are treated. It comes up in the conversations about the father. And those attitudes being expressed by the mom does affect the children, both the male and female children. And it will shape the female children's attitudes towards men, and will then carry forward the same attitude, which ends up having an adverse effect on the relationships. And so, you know, that's a legitimate issue that, you know, that we face, you know, when we're interacting in relationships. And sometimes those are unconscious reactions that people aren't aware of and don't see how their attitudes have been shaped by those things. But it does have a powerful effect on our psyche, and it does affect how we, if we're not aware of it, it affects how we relate to each other. I know that from the counseling people I've counseled. I know that from my own personal experiences with in my relationships and in my own family dynamics. You know, I grew up listening to my mother basically constantly talk negative about my father. I have a strong personality, so it didn't affect me like it would affect other people, because I grew up pretty much being an alpha male, and you know, I was made the man of the house, and so my perspective was a bit different. So, you know, I didn't being, I guess, me being in the perspective, even as a young child, being the man of the house, I didn't really care that much about anybody else's opinion. So I wasn't really affected by it. But my sister was. And that colored how, she dealt with and continues to deal with, because I've talked to her about it. It affects how she interacts with men. And it affects, just like in the prior clip, it affects the type of men that she attracts. So because, she does tend to be, she's admitted to me that she tends to be a bit controlling and domineering. So naturally, the type of men that she attracts are beta men who she has no respect for. Right? So, I do relationship counseling. It's not my objective to try to cast the blame on solely upon women or black women. Because responsibility should be shared equally. Everyone contributes to the circumstances. Two people have to be in a relationship, and have to contribute to it. Now, part of the reason that I felt compelled to do this show, however, is because that is not how it ends up being perceived. Too often, and probably more often than not, and this has been the case as I've talked to and counseled people, that the default tends to be to blame the man. And because of the way that we've been brought up, particularly being brought up in a female household, men have been brought up to accept the blame. And feel like whatever failure in the relationship is his fault alone. And it's been all too common for women to just accept that and not take responsibility and own up to what they've done to contribute to the circumstances. And so it needs to be a paradigm shift from that perspective. And that's part of what the contribution you may take issue with Kevin Samuel's manner of communication. That's not how I would communicate, but I'm not him and he's not me. So he may rub some people the wrong way. I may rub some people the wrong way. But, people have different styles. But it's it's about the message, the intent. And I do believe that his intent was to help to bring about some progress or healing in relationships. But the point of the show really wasn't designed to be a defense of him so much. But it's just to really illuminate what the issues are that we face, with respect to our relationships and why, we have such a division between us, and we engage in far too much finger pointing without realizing that when you're pointing the index finger, there's 3 fingers pointing back at us. And as I point out to everyone who I counsel, particularly those who are in a relationship, is that when you're in a relationship, you're invariably going to attract someone who is going to trigger and bring to the forefront all of our issues. My show is called Journey in the Self. And the reason for that is that that's what life is about. Life is about us understanding who we are, knowing ourselves. And everything that we experience is designed to help facilitate that. And that's particularly true of our relationships. And so, no relationship is going to progress if there's just finger pointing and blaming. So again, it's not my intent to place blame on any on anyone. It's not my intent to place blame on Black women, nor any more than I think that blame should be placed solely upon Black men. If we want our relationships to succeed, we have to both take responsibility and realize that all of us have things that we need to work on. We've all been shaped by our experiences. We all have unconscious and subconscious reactions to things based upon our upbringing, who raised us. We've been influenced by their attitudes and perspectives. And if we're not aware, then we just continue to repeat the same patterns that we observed unconsciously, reliving their life. I was just counseling a brother the other night, and as I was counseling him, and we was counseling, he was having relationship issues, and he was telling me about the problems that he's having in his relationship, and we went deeper, and I asked him about his childhood, his upbringing. What was his family dynamic? And as he described what his family dynamics were, I came to the realization that the person that he married was just like his mother. He essentially married his mother. A person who had all the same attributes, and who interacted with him the same way his mother interacted with his father. And treated him the same way that his mother treated him, which wasn't a positive experience. But he didn't recognize that until we discussed it. So there's a lot of unconscious things that we do. And so when we're in a relationship, all those things come out, and when they cause reactions, it provides us an opportunity to engage in some self-reflection and introspection so that we can understand ourselves better and begin to empower ourselves with the ability to be able to choose how we want to be rather than just continuing to mirror the same patterns that we've observed and experienced. We're not going to do it by just doing what we've been doing, what we see all the time on social media, which just disgust the heck out of me, is just this finger pointing and this just talking down about each other. Every day I can go to social media and I can count on it and bet on seeing some black women saying something negative about black men and vice versa. And as I pointed out, that is what the intelligence community of this country wants. That is what the dominant culture wants, because to the extent that they can create division, they can keep us in a subservient position, a disempowered position, because we can't accomplish anything when there's disunity. And so they foster this disunity between us. And if you weren't aware, social media is often and heavily used by the intelligence community. And so it's important to be mindful that some of this stuff is artificially stimulated through social media to stimulate that type of vitriol going back and forth between black men and black women. But to be honest with you, the level of the vitriol, unfortunately, is higher when it's coming from black men and directed towards black women. Because just as I pointed out, when Kevin Samuels made his transition, as my brother, Dr. Hassan Johnson pointed out, that there was it was almost celebratory from women, black women. They were celebrating the brother's death. You know, as he described it, they were dancing on his grave. But by contrast, when Bell Hooks made her transition, and she's on the record, has written books where she has derogatorily discussed black men. And I remember when she made her transition, and I did not see anywhere near the level of vitriol expressed on her transition. No one was dancing on her grave, celebrating her passing. In fact, it was just the opposite. Even black men were expressing sympathies, even though they've been a target of her of her attacks. So I want this to be an honest discussion. And there's a lot of work for us to do. But Black women have some responsibility. Black women are not innocent. Black women have contributed greatly to this issue. Not to say that Black men haven't, but again, the point is that Black men have been blamed and have been conditioned to accept blame. And so the vitriol is the fact that now Black men aren't just accepting it, or some anyway, aren't accepting it anymore, are realizing that they do have some power, have the right to choose, and that makes some people uncomfortable. And I know that, even in my relationship experiences, when it became apparent that I knew that I didn't have to put up with just anything, when I expressed that I'm comfortable in my own skin, that I don't need to have someone, that I have choices, that made that person very uncomfortable because they're accustomed to having the power, the control. But it's not about that. It shouldn't be. A relationship is supposed to be a partnership. It should not be a battle for control. You see, a sister from the 313 area code has been listening very patiently and attentively. Sister, do you have any comments or observations, questions? And while I wait for the sister's response, I'll encourage you to go to my website, www.sa-ra.org. That's www.sa-ra.org. As I've pointed out, I do relationship and spiritual counseling. So if you find yourself in need of that service, then do reach out to me, and you can go to my website and make an appointment. Sister, in the 313 area code, do you have any questions, comments, observations that you'd like to make before we conclude the show tonight? No? Well, I thank you for your patience and listening. And I hope that this has been beneficial and been food for thought, food for introspection, and has provided some insight certainly, I don't think I've probably dealt with all the issues, but I think this, hopefully, I provided a good overview and something, to consider, particularly as we, if we're interested in having a relationship and having it be a successful relationship, and deepening and helping to facilitate our relationships with each other, which we do need, because we're not going to advance as a community being divided. We have to get over this, and it's not going to help, with us just pointing fingers and blaming each other. Relationships don't happen that way, and our relationships in general between black men and black women are not going to evolve in a sin as long as we're pointing fingers. Okay, so meditate on what I've discussed, and we just have somebody joining from the 949.
Peace, Brother Sarah. This is Sister Suri. How are you?
Hey, Sister Jasiri, I'm fantastic. How are you, my good sister?
I am at my best. I got a chance to listen to a little bit of your segment. I was in and out. I have the children right now, so they're doing their routines in preparation for tomorrow. But for the little bit that I did here, I just wanted to say thank you so much for hosting this segment and presenting this, this discussion. It's so important that our people understand that things aren't just hot and cold, black and white, that we are complex human beings. Mm-hmm. And to just flatline our brother that way just because we don't necessarily agree mm-hmm. with everything is so problematic. And I think that we've gotten to a point where we're so ultra sensitive that we're just quick to just press the button to cancel culture and lose our humanity. Absolutely. And as we, heal this division, this artificial division that was created by our shared open enemy, it's incumbent upon us to strive to deeply understand each other.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, there's...
So it's problematic that so many sisters would dance on his grave, and it's not necessary. It's inhumane. It's not necessary, and there are better ways for us to articulate our family dynamics.
Indeed. I think it's important, for us to be able to just, listen to what each other has to say, rather than just dismissing it. And, as I pointed out, I feel that a lot of the reaction comes from people who haven't even listened to what he's had to say. They've heard from other people what they think. Go ahead, sister.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was telling my daughter to turn her laptop down.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. People just hear other people get on this train and they hop on it, and they're not really speaking from a space of experience. There's some very good things that, he presented, very good issues that he surfaced. Mm-hmm. And it was thought-provoking. It challenged people. It made people uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And we get uncomfortable, for a lot of the healing that we need to do. Were there some things that he said that I didn't necessarily agree with? Yes, however, I don't agree with everybody. You know what I mean? I don't agree 100% with everybody. And so I have my way of articulating that. You know, I'm not going to lose my humanity and dance on somebody's grave because I disagree with them. You know, I may see an opportunity for growth, which we all have opportunities for growth. And I would hope somebody would point that out to me and do it in a humane way, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I mean, I wouldn't say that I've listened to a lot of his shows. I've listened to some. I've agreed with a lot of what he said, probably most of it, but not everything. There are things that I didn't agree with. And, you know, like I said, I know that I wouldn't have handled some of those discussions the way he did.
Right.
That's not my style, you know. But I'm not going to criticize him for that because he's not me and I'm not him, you know. And, you know, people approach things differently. That doesn't make one piece, make them right or wrong. You know, it's just different. And, you know, sometimes it's effective to kind of shock people, you know, that way. And, you know, so, you know, people have different approaches, you know, but like you said, because you don't agree with how someone says something or agree with what they've said, you don't celebrate somebody's death, you know, over that.
Yeah.
And
No.
and maybe consider, you know, like, is there truth to what he's saying?
Right. Yeah, I mean, ponder on that a little bit, reflect on it, you know. The
Right.
knee-jerk reaction to, you know, to go get ready to scrap. Think about it.
Right.
Think about it, you know. Really think about it. But yeah, to dance on his grave, and you brought up a very good point. Nobody was doing that to Bell Hooks, and the things that she said about the January 6th, like they were looking for trouble. They knew they wanted to hurt that woman, to sexually aggress her. Like, what are you talking about, woman? You know, what are you talking about? So there's a lot of this talk about this divine feminine and how you better watch out, and how these innuendos that somehow the divine feminine powers, mystical, magical powers, resulted in Kay Samuel's demise. And to that, I just set that all down. Okay? George Zimmerman is still roaming free. I don't want to hear that weak talk.
That's right. That's an excellent point.
I do not want to hear that mystical, fake crystal totem weak talk, that weak juju. I don't want to hear that.
That's right.
You know, so save the vitriol for our shared open enemy, and get off that feminist A train.
Check and double check on that, sister.
You know, so. But yeah, that's all I wanted to share. Thanks again for hosting. I mean, really appreciate your perspectives and the peace that you bring.
Thank you, good sister. I appreciate you deeply. Last thing I want to say is, and this is what I tell people when I counsel them. Whenever anyone says something that invokes a negative reaction in us, is the time we're supposed to look at ourselves to try to understand why we are reacting. Because it's not because of what the person did. There's something in us that's causing that to happen. So it's always about trying to understand ourselves, the journey in itself. So with that, I'll greet you in the Kemetic words of peace, Hotep, and we will see you next time here on Journey in the Self.
Peace. Hotep.
Hotep.